TV broadcast type startup where I go, okay, starting in three, two, and do like the silent countdown. Then
Good.
I'll come in with the intro. I'll introduce you, give you a little bit of time to introduce yourself, and then I've got questions that I want to ask you about yourself to kind of introduce you to people who haven't heard about you before and give your background on TFT and where you're from and stuff like that. And then, we'll see how long we might start talking about something just based off things that we talk about during that. And if we, hit a point where we don't have somewhere to go with the conversation, I'll start bringing up one thing I wanted to talk about. I mean, obviously, set 4.5. We haven't done an episode on TFT on the podcast yet since 4.5 has come out, so we can talk about it pretty generally and still have a lot of good content. But one thing I specifically wanted to talk about was pivoting because I know that that's one thing that like you do a lot. I like that play style a lot too, and I know it's the hardest play style by far. So there's a lot of
It
meat to talk about.
Pivoting is definitely the hardest thing in the game.
Yeah. So, all right, looks like the stream is up and live. So, if you're all good, I'm gonna
I'm
count us down. We're gonna get
I'm
to
all
it.
set. All right.
Right. Uh, Start recording in three, two. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Wormlax, on the TFT LOLA podcast today. Usually, we don't have a TFT podcast, but today we're doing a little bit something special. 4.5 is out, having a ton of fun with it, and I've brought on today with me RazmaGaming. He is a TFT streamer who, congrats to you, just hit Challenger. So,
Thank you very much, Worm.
yeah, that's awesome, and really happy to have you here. So, I want to start off right off the bat. Question we always ask people: how did you get your name for
My
League?
my name is Rasmus. So
Yeah.
I used to use the name Zar, Tzar, and that's from a super old RTS game from PC. And when I started playing WoW way back in like 2008, I just used the auto name generator, and Rasma was the first character name that came up. So
Gotcha.
then for my 15 other WoW characters after that, everything was Raz something. Razma, Razba, Razka, Razda. And I just liked Razma the most, and that's the one I stuck with.
Awesome. Not a lot of personal things to it, but hey, we all get our names
Not at
somehow,
all.
right? But so the other thing I've heard you talk about on stream, since this is more akin to probably the majority of our viewers, you have played League in the past. You played it before TFT. You didn't just come and start right onto TFT. What was
That's
your
correct.
what season did you start?
I started, I don't know I think it was season 2. 2012 is when I first started playing League.
Hmm.
I think that was season 2. I don't exactly remember. I peaked in season 3. I was diamond in season 3. That's the last
Awesome.
time I fully tryharded League. And I've played for every year up until pretty much last year was the last year I barely played any League. Like TFT started consuming me, and that's where I've been since.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but for me, like when they had that huge push for TFT when it first came out and like every streamer was playing it, like I just got hooked by the people playing it and I played a crap ton of set 1, but I really didn't play much of set 2 or 3. Did you play like right out of the gate with set 1 or did it take a bit?
I played right out of the gate when it was still in beta. Even
Okay.
I just remember one of the nights a friend and I set when they were doing the queue pause, where pretty much you didn't know how long the queue was gonna take, and every time like you would be in queue and it's like average queue time 10 minutes. 5 minutes later, average queue time 15 minutes. I waited 2.5 hours for one queue,
Oh my gosh.
and it's just I wasn't really truly hooked then. Just like you, I didn't really play set 2 that much. I didn't really get truly into it until set 3.
Gotcha. So, one thing that I also heard you talking about recently, you just have joined up with Hype Horizon, who is a gaming team. Can you tell us a little bit about them and you're joining recently?
So Hyper Horizon's pretty new organization. They were just created in May, and they started getting more members in June. I am their actual first TFT streamer. They're primarily a Hearthstone organization, excuse me, and they have quite a few of like top tier players for Hearthstone. And I'm their first foray into TFT. I'm supposed to be trying to bring like help bring the Hyper Horizon brand into TFT and broadening our scope. Um, we're actually hosting a tournament tomorrow night to plug me a little bit. Hyper
Yeah, for
Horizon,
sure.
Razma. We're hosting a tournament tomorrow night, free entry. So,
Yeah, definitely
and it
go check
really
that
it's
out.
just it's the first team I've joined. I'm the first TFT, so we're just kind of seeing how it goes. I mean, they support me on the back end, trying to help my stream grow, and I support them.
Awesome. Yeah, great to have that support. Yeah, you recently joined TFT and you have that tournament on Friday. I unfortunately cannot join, but yeah, if anyone who's listening to this podcast, hopefully before Friday, if you'd like to go check out Hype Horizon and RazmaGaming, his Twitter or his Discord or his Twitch, and I'm sure you can find a link to get signed up for that. But so one big change to TFT recently, we've got set 4.5 recently came out. Had quite a few champions leave, new ones come in, some traits changed up, and I gotta be honest, right out the gate, I think you adapted faster than I did, but I had some struggles, man, with when first like the new set came out and trying to adapt to the new like learning comps and learning when to like pivot, like it's a really hard skill to learn with pivoting. I know
It's
that it's your favorite by far, so I just wanted to talk about a little bit like how you've been dealing with that with the new set and learning new champions.
so a lot of my viewers know the second day of the excuse me of the new set, I did not take a top four the entire day. I played like 6 or 8 games. I don't remember exactly what, and I did not take a top four the entire day. I was lost. Same as like you were just talking about. So what I did was I did some research on some better players than I am, and found some guides myself to look at. Like all right, so what are the comps right now? What can be done? And just doing that helped me immensely because as you said, like my playstyle is the play strongest board to level 8, pivot into a good comp.
Yeah.
And that playstyle is extremely hard to learn and extremely hard to do, but it's one of the strongest playstyles because it's the most flexible out there, so you can deal with whatever hand you're dealt and do it well.
Right.
As for how do you actually learn that playstyle, a lot of losses. I mean, I've played TFT 6+ hours a day, 6 days a week. There are hundreds of games where I've failed to pivot, and it can be easily seen. And you just got to keep pushing. I'd say the biggest thing is knowing what carry you're looking for, and then just building around that.
Yeah, I think honing in, especially on the carries, is a big deal because I think in set four, when I found my stride, I ended up hitting D2 before the reset, which is like a huge peak for me. I was super happy with that. And my thing was usually like, oh, I hit a Jin like at a good timing. Like I'm definitely like Dusk Jin is like almost always one of my go-tos. Like Jin and Riven really complement each other well with holding like strong items that you build earlier in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so with those champions changed out this set, for the first like couple weeks I was like slamming items that I used to slam all the time, and then I would get to like 8 or 7 or 8 and I'm like, oh crap, I don't have a gym to slam this giant slayer on into anymore, or
Yeah.
my Riven with blue buff like Sunfire, like I don't have that just go to comp to push everything
Yeah.
onto like I
And
used to.
I think exactly what you're saying, like a go-to comp. I think everyone, if you're gonna play the pivoting play style, needs that. For me, currently, it's the Olaf Slayer comp, hands down. I make that work no matter what items I hit, unless they're like pure AP items. Don't play
Mm.
AP Olaf. I tried it once already. It doesn't work.
Not quite as
But
good.
yeah, but like having that like go-to fallback comp, if you are going to play the pivoting playstyle, is probably the best and safest thing you can do. I still play whatever strongest board is early. I still play super flexibly, but then in the late game, if I'm like, well, I have these couple of items, they can probably work well for Olaf, and I don't really know what else to do. Just be decisive and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, even if it's not Olaf for you. Do whatever it is. Be decisive and don't just be like, well, I'm gonna hold this in case I do this or in case I do this. Once you start doing that, you lose too much health and you just lose the game.
Right. So Olaf is one of your main characters. I actually have defaulted a lot to Olaf as well with this set. He seems to be just a really solid carry with Slayers, and also you can go Dragon Soul if you don't have like a decent Slayer comp. What items do you think are best for Olaf?
So pure best in slot, I would definitely say is the rapid fire cannon, hurricane, and a death blade. Almost hands down. Rapid fire hurricane definitely the best combo, and I think in some situations a giant slayer might be better if you're
Hmm.
playing like a lot of people with brawlers or people who have like good 3-star front line. Switch out the death blade for a giant slayer, but I also don't think Olaf needs those items to be able to shine. I've played like GA, Hurricane, Hand of Justice. I've played IE, Rapid Fire, I don't know, Zeke's. And like that's all good enough to get that top four. But if
Hmm.
you want that like winning comp, that like top one comp, you will need the perfect items.
Right. I think the hardest part of this set I found too is like it feels like a lot of the carries want the bows. Like Rapid Fire is best in slot for both Olaf and Kale, who are two of the main carries. So it's like if you're streaking in the early game, you're probably never gonna get a bow. Like your best option of getting a bow is from a random drop of one of the minions, so you can't really guarantee it off of a carousel like before. Like it seemed like I had better availability for the items that I wanted in the last set. This one feels like there's a few that are much stronger this time around.
So I would agree with you for the most part. Kale and Olaf are probably Kale, Olaf, Zed are probably the three that like I would think of the most. That all three of them, if you want best in slot items, require three bows.
Mm,
And meaning like Olaf and Kale are both the pretty much the premier non-caster four cost carries.
right.
And if they both want that many bows, you either int early to get the bows to get perfect items late game, or you don't get them, pretty much, like you were saying, or you get super lucky and high roll them. And that's probably one of the biggest gripes I have right now about this set after like it's settled down a little bit and
We're not
you know,
slamming
other
Elderwood
playstyles
every
are coming
time.
out. Yeah, not Eldo and Acel every time. Is that like because the way like Kale and Olaf are kind of like the premier four cost carries right now, bows are just too hard to come by, and like that's items you absolutely need for them. I do think you need at least one bow on Olaf. You need either a hurricane or a
Mm.
rapid fire. You don't need both, but you need
Need
one of the
one of
two.
them. Yeah. Yeah, I really agree with that. And I think the hardest part for me too is there's like a couple comps that people like are good or you can high roll to get first or second, but don't aren't as consistent as like Olaf or Kalo. And those two are like to me are Duelist and Fable. Like Duelist can feel really good if you high roll and you're hitting like you hit a level 3 Yasuo early game and then you eventually can like hit a Yone when you hit 7 or 8 and you have like that adept front line with duelists and like if you're hitting everything it feels really good. But if you don't hit a Yone and you don't have great Yasuo items, like duelists can feel really weak at the same time. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Fable is the same way. Like you had a game recently on stream where you played Fable and you got 8 Vanguard with Vanguard Nico, which like she shined. She was impossible to kill. She was killing everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it like went really well. But I've also seen like I watched Saint Vicious the other night. He went eighth with a 3-star Nico that he hit.
Yeah. All right. So I'll hit on the the Nico one first. So I've been telling my chat for like the past week to not play Nico. Not play Nico. Just don't do it.
Hmm.
Literally, the stars have to align for that to work. And it only worked for me because I hit an Ornn on the carousel. I hit a Vanguard spat to put on the Nico, and Nico had what I would call perfect items with a Vanguard spat, a Hextech Gunblade, and a Jeweled Gauntlet. I think Nico's character design is a little flawed because without Fabled, she's a worthless champion and she's a mystic, but you would never throw her in for just being a mystic because all the other mystics have a lot better utility where a Nico without Fabled is just worthless. Like it does like nothing. So unless you hit like that chosen Fabled Nico, I really don't think it's playable like at all.
Right. Yeah,
And so, um,
go ahead.
and as for the duelists, excuse me, um, I feel the duelists are pretty good. I've taken quite a few firsts recently with them.
Mhm.
They feel pretty solid. Yasuo items, while there is like a best in slot, aren't always like they don't always have to be completely consistent. But the thing about the duelists, which I do agree with you, is if you don't hit that Yone, if you don't hit that Lee Sin, you're at best you're getting a fourth. And
Yeah.
personally, I don't like going for those comps that require a 5 cost unit because even at level 8, only having a 5% chance to hit one, that's not that good. And the
Mhm.
Yasuo majorly falls off without the Yone lifesteal.
Yeah, it feels really
So,
bad if you hit like 7 or 8 and you're looking for that 5 cost and you can't hit it and you just start like losing all through stage 4 because you can't hit like that one unit and then you've all of a sudden you've gone from like maybe like a top 1 or 2 with 70 health to like you're at the bottom like hoping to high roll this person to complete your comp.
yeah. I definitely agree with that. The only way you take a first place with the duelists is with the Lee Sin and Yone. Like I'm talking specifically about the reroll Yas duelists. There are other ways to play it, of course. I don't think any of them are nearly as strong, but there are
Mhm.
other ways to play it. But like 3-star Yasuo chosen with 3 items, yeah, he's a monster with 6 duelists. But until you get that Yone on board to give him the life steal, to get that extra that 3 adept instead of the 2 adept, and until you get like a Lee Sin on board to give you that major CC of the kicks and possibly kicking off that super tank that Yasuo just can't kill,
Yep.
you're not going to win a fight. I mean, excuse me, you're not going to win the game.
Yep. For sure. And yeah, I think the other comp recently that's pretty strong that you only see when people like high roll it, that kind of feels that same way as duelists, you're not going to win unless you get a 5 cost is brawlers with set. Like I really like brawlers if you're high rolling early game and they're so tanky, they have the extra AD now, and especially Shyvana is such a good early game champ if you have good items for her. But then if you hit like 7 or 8 and you're rolling for a set to complete your comp and you can't hit it, like it's again like it can be one of those games that turns from like you're winning every single fight to you can't win a single one and you've like barely top 4.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you here. Unless you already have like a 3-star Shyvana or a 3-star Nunu.
Mhm.
Personally, if I go 8 and I have 6 brawlers on board, even 7 brawlers on board, and I don't high roll a set like as I'm going 8, I'm gonna pivot off of it because the comp falls off so hard without that set, like you were saying,
Mhm.
that it can't do it.
Yeah.
It just can't. Now, if you high roll the set, like you said, get one off a carousel, hit one at level 7 with like that 1% hit, stay 8 brawlers, go to level 9 and just kill everything. But
Right.
otherwise, no. Now, a little bit conversely to that though, if you are fighting someone with 8 brawlers in your game, just build a giant slayer.
Yeah.
Everything will melt when you build a giant slayer at that point because their entire board has over 3,000 health.
Yeah.
So,
One comp that always gets me with how much it kills and uses the Giant Slayer really well is the Nidalee reroll comp. Like,
mhm.
I cannot believe, like, you even had the 8 Vanguards, which you have insane amount of armor and MR, and Nidalee was still one-shotting stuff at level 3 because her spears are just so insane right now. Like, I kind of think they're gonna nerf Nidalee. Like,
So Mortdog was teasing a change to Nidalee. It doesn't say what that change is yet.
mhm.
Besides, her damage per hex is probably going way up. So my guess, this is stipulate like my guessing here,
Right.
but they're gonna probably majorly lower the like close range damage and make it like even out. So yeah, if Nidalee gets that full cross the map spear that hits your corner unit from her corner, I feel like her being able to one shot somebody in that case with like 3-star, 3 item, jewel gauntlet, it crits. I think that's honestly pretty fair. Like that can be her niche because you
Right.
can play around that pretty easily. Um, but like what you were talking about, what happened to me is my front line literally moved, and that spear went from one corner to the complete opposite corner. And yeah, it one shot a 3-star Nico that had a Vanguard spat for 8 Vanguards. So 70 plus extra MR. I think it's 70 for 8 Vanguard.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's insane, and it's still one
And
shutter.
that the Giant Slayer Druid Gauntlet combo there, it just the stars had to align for that to happen.
Yeah, and
So
actually
I mean,
the thing that was surprising me was not so much like that one was just unlucky that that one spear like tip of the iceberg threw your whole team to hit her,
yeah.
but it was even like your front line would just like one spear come out and it was like poof, like four of your frontliners were just gone because her spears are so strong right now.
Yeah, I do think she does need somewhat of a nerf because like the reroll Nidalee with the change to sharpshooter, like getting the extra bounces early.
Hmm.
They buffed Nidalee so she has a reduced mana cost. So like a Sojin is like 2 or 3 auto attacks and Nidalee throws another spear. And when the spear is doing that much damage, it does feel a little too powerful.
Right.
Um, there are plays against it. Like Nidalee normally doesn't have a QSS, so like playing an Aatrox, getting the hook from a Ornn item, like there are plays against it. But even like something like the Aatrox, Nidalee with a Sojin probably gonna get her spear out before the Aatrox pull happens. And if
Yeah.
Aatrox just happens to get hit by that spear,
He's
he's
gone.
gonna die. He's gonna
Yeah,
die.
and anyone that's above like platinum elo, they're gonna realize that they're losing to being pulled out of the corner, and they're just gonna position like their Trist or their Civ or whatever other sharpshooter they're running into that corner anyways. So
Correct.
you're only gonna get away with like that winning you the fight one or two fights. If you have to fight them multiple times for like a first place, they're gonna adapt to that. So
And that's exactly what happened today in that game, like we were talking about. I fought him once previously. I had the hook on Ornn, the Blitzcrank hook item, hooked the Nidalee, instantly killed it. Game was fight was perfectly fine. Then that next one is when he took the first because he just repositioned, exactly
yeah.
like you were saying.
Yeah, and actually talking about the hook, like the Blitzcrank hook, Ornn is a super interesting character this time around too, because as a champion himself, like in fights, he's really not very good as far as like a 5 star goes. Like he really doesn't change the fight very much, but his items are so strong. Specifically, I always think about Everfrost. Like that item literally win is it Everfrost? Is that what it's called?
Winter's Chill, I believe, is what it's
Oh,
called.
Winter's Chill, yeah.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
That item is ridiculous. Like
I agree. I think that item needs to be nerfed or just gotten rid of personally. I think how much that item gives. So those who don't know, it's a tank item you put on normally a frontliner that when one of your units auto attack them, the unit that's holding that item, they get a 50% attack speed slow for 5 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever it is. But then
right.
every time that you auto attack them, it reapplies it. Then once you auto attack them 5 times, it stuns your unit for 2 seconds. So as we're talking about earlier, like attack speed carries are one of the biggest things right now. 5 attacks happen really fast, your unit's stunned.
Yep.
Okay. Then like it completely there's no counterplay to it besides kill the unit before the 5 stacks.
Yep.
And if you put it on a 2 star Sejuani, a 2 star Aatrox, with 4 Vanguard with another tank item or two, they're not gonna die.
Yep.
Not fast enough to make it work. So it's just I think that item itself is too overpowered. Now as for Ornn as a whole, I think they made a champion who high rolling him early can just win you the game if you can get him on board. So like if you hit an Ornn at like 4-1 level 7 and you have 60ish health left or something, you just put that Ornn on board. Doesn't even matter if it makes your board a little weaker as long as you're not going to like drop 20 health per loss.
Mhm.
And you get one of those Ornn items, and if you get one of the like really good ones that I think like the best are the Eternal Winter, Frozen Winter, whatever the hell that one's called, I can't remember.
Yeah.
um the Gold Collector, the Infinity Force, the Anima Visage, any of those, it instantly paid for itself like
Yeah.
5 times over. And but hitting him like in the late game, there's a lot of games where I'm like, well, yeah, Owen would be nice, but I don't have 4 turns to put a weaker board online when
Right.
I'm at two lives until I'm two games till I'm dead, possibly.
Yeah.
So I just completely bypass him. So unless you're going to use him for the Elderwood or the Vanguard, I feel like he's more of a high roll thing than anything else.
Hmm. Yeah, I do feel like he's in a pretty good spot right now. I think as long as you change the frost item a little bit, make it not quite so strong, because it really feels like when you hit that, when you have any kind of like duelist carry or Olaf or something, it's like, oh, my Olaf stunned himself and now he's dead before he even ulted ever. Oh, well, that
Hmm.
sucks. I lost.
Yeah.
And so that part is a little frustrating, but all the other items are just good, but not like they don't feel overly game breaking. So I think that he's in a pretty good, like you said, like if you hit him really early, it feels good. But he also, like, he makes your board weaker, so you can't just put him in at any time. If you're looking to, I need to absolutely make myself stronger for these last 2 or 3 fights to try to hit top four or something like that, you can't just slot him in for no reason.
Yeah. The only time that I've been like slotting him in like that is I play a lot of like a 4 Vanguard frontline.
Mhm.
And if I have like a 1 star Nautilus or like a 1 star Braum, I'm just gonna put him in over one of those two
Right.
and keep my Sejuani, keep my Aatrox. Like that, then it's not too bad because his ultimate, if he does get it off, has the slowing portion and the knockup. So it is like a pretty good ultimate. It's just he has a very low health pool and a very high mana cost. So him actually taking enough hits to get his ultimate out and then staying alive long enough to redirect it to get the stun portion as well. Because it's not like he casts it and then he also stuns. He has to stay alive and stay not CC'd to be able to use the second portion of his ultimate.
Yeah, yeah. I rarely find myself like thinking that that Orin ultimate like won the fight or like CC'd the perfect timing. Like he usually like gets out the first part, but a lot of times like people don't stack items on him because he's gotten in later in the game and he ends up dying like before he even gets the second knockup part. So
Exactly.
yeah. The other comp that's been super fun to play, and that's you've played a couple times recently, is the Siphoner reroll Nasus, which Nasus, I mean, he kind of fits in the same slot. I feel like playstyle wise as like Nidalee. Like if you get him early and you have a couple, you're like, all right, like this is what I'm doing this game. I'm gonna stick with this Nasus. I've got a good front line for him, and his attack speed slows are just absolutely insane in the early game.
I I personally think the Nasus needs I'd say a rework, not even just a full nerf.
Mm,
Like I think his ability, like how he's a divine unit, so he gets the extra tank with the divine, especially with the divine rework right now, so it always lasts 6 seconds.
mm-hmm.
Um, he gets Siphon, which gives him the life steal, and how his ability does a good amount of damage as well as slows attack speed and movement speed. He's like an all-in-one package while being a one cost unit.
Yep.
Like if he was a higher cost unit, okay, fine. But he's like an all-in-one package for a one cost. And yeah, I played the comp I think twice today, 2 games in a row, because I hit the Siphon and Assist, and I'm like, I'm going for it. That's just what happens. Now it's not like a guaranteed 1 or 2 with that comp. It's like a really good. You're probably going to get a top four.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the comp in the end game needs like the Swain and Morgana to be able to deal damage. So it's a really good like early mid game comp. And if you hit the like chosen Nasus, Divine, or Siphoner, I highly suggest you just throw it on board no matter what. Even if you're not going to play the Revol version, that can get you to level 8. And
Yeah.
then you can do, the pivot.
Yeah, the siphoners actually are kind of insane. Like I feel like people don't slot them in as much as they should. Like I feel like I've been slotting them in almost like people used to slot in like Dusk champions. Like Dusk back in set 4 was just, you got extra AP. So slotting in 2 Dusk champions for your team getting extra AP was a really good thing to do. And I feel like with the siphoners that can be like a good, it's not always necessary, but like even like when I've been running like Olaf later in the game, and then you hit like a Swain who also has Dragon Soul. If you all you have to do is slot in one more Siphoner with that, and both Olaf and Swain are strong units on their own, and then if you give them the Siphoner buff, like that feels like it just does a whole lot for your team.
I agree with you. I think it helps more early game than like that late game like you were talking about.
Hmm.
Now, there is something to be said for the late game, like you said with the Swain playing Olaf, you throw in a Morgana who has if the enemy's playing like an AD comp, Morgana just drops 40% AD by herself.
Yeah, she has
So
free
like
Dazzler now.
yeah, she has the free Dazzler now. So like that 100% makes perfect sense. But early game, I feel like I think people sleep on Vlad right now.
Mm.
Um, Two Siphoner with like Vlad and Nasus. Nasus gives the attack speed slow. He's just that all around good all around good unit. And Vlad, who heals your entire team when he ults, plus gives Siphoner to heal your entire team.
Yep.
So if you have just like if you're playing any sort of divine or any sort of cultist, I think you always put Vlad Nasus on the board, and they're always better. Especially because they like the early game 10% healing when the fights go so long. Your backline carries get that 10% healing from just having two siphoners, and that actually means a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I will say one game that like I forget what I was running in the early game, but I like hit a wall where I was losing, but I had gotten to like fast 9 and I sold my chosen and I hit like a Siphoner Swain. Like he's just unkillable. Like I had tank items for him, Siphoner, like it's just absolutely unkillable. The one thing that I wish worked that I think I've talked about before, but it's the Vlad Mage. The one thing that does not work is Vlad's ult. If you put Mage Cap on him, he ults the same person twice, and if he kills the unit before he ults them again, he just won't do the second ult. And it's completely wasted on him, and it makes me so sad because it would be so cool if you could like alt one person, kill him, heal your team, and then alt another person, kill him, and heal your team. But
I feel like that's actually an oversight on the TFT team because like if you think of like all the other mages, they
mm,
don't double cast on the same person. Like Vagar
mm,
casts on two different people, Brand casts on two different people. TF technically can cast on the same person, but like as long as there's a second target, they always target two different people. They don't ever target the first. So I feel like Vlad should work,
mm.
like you're saying.
Yeah, unfortunately it doesn't. I also did one time the Nasus mage, which does actually work. He does alt two separate targets, so that was actually pretty cool. And I actually, it's hard because I feel like it's not something that you can like guarantee very often. Getting a spat and getting like a mage cap to actually put on him, but I feel like if you had the Titan's resolve on him and like one other tank item and then the mage spat, like I feel like that would actually be a good comp like consistently, but it's just so inconsistent to get a spat.
I would agree with you there. So like if you get like the all spat carousel opener and you hit a Nasus chosen, then maybe you go
Yeah.
for it. Otherwise, I mean, I would think like I have never done it before, but I would think that would be pretty good. Like Nasus casting, if you can double cast on two different people. There were a couple fights earlier today when I was playing the Nasus Revol, and there was a guy who had a Kale that didn't have a QSS. So all I needed to win the fight was Nasus to choose the Kale as the target, and
Right.
he just never did it. And like if I had the mage cap and doubled my chances for it, maybe I win those fights.
Right, exactly. I love the mage spat, like thinking about different interactions that it can have. Like it always ends up being I don't play it because it's such like a risk to try to be like I'm gonna build my comp around mage and then hope to like mage spat someone random. But I remember like back in set 4 I played against a guy who got a mage spat and put it on his set. And set was like double dunking. And it was like if he actually got the double dunk, your team was just dead. You can't survive two set dunks. But always what would happen, he would like get below 40% health and he wouldn't ult twice, he would only ult once. And it was like,
Yeah.
that's kind of sucks. But when it did happen, it was like, oh my god, my whole team is gone. I love those double interactions.
I think one of like some of the cool ones that a couple people know about, but like most people don't right now, is like a mage Shyvana, a mage Olaf, a mage Swain, the people who have the transform. So like for Shyvana, what it does is it doubles her health pool and doubles the attack damage she gets, plus the doubles the damage over time. So it's actually
Gotcha.
really, really good on Shyvana.
Mhm.
Olaf it doubles the attack speed he gets, which means 350% attack speed, and doubles the extra cleave damage, which is also fantastic. And
Yeah.
then Swain is the same thing. It doubles the amount of health he gets, plus the extra AP and stuff. So I do like the mage interaction is probably the coolest interaction with all the spats. None of the other spats have that sort of interaction.
Mhm.
And I feel like late game, like if you see like, oh, I have a mage spat, I have one of these carries. Is this possible? But it's really hard to, think about that in the moment.
Yeah. And to slot, yeah, I mean, you just have to get so lucky to be able to like slot that in to actually hit a mid spat and then have like a good opportunity to do it. Like one of the things I've had like once or twice that's always been so good is the Zillion Mage. It's like if
Mhm.
Zillion Mage ults, you get like your entire team is going to get revived again. But to
Yeah.
actually have Mage on your board and have a Zillion and then hit the Mage spat, like it's just the stars have to align for that kind of comp to come
So
together.
I think that was easier in set four because in the late game, when you're rolling, like if you're level 8, level 9, there was Lilia, who was a mage, who, if you
Right.
got a double cast out with that, was also put people to sleep double as many as double the amount.
Mhm.
Now the highest tier mage is Asol at tier 4, and he's the only tier 4 mage. There's no tier 5, and then the next is tier 3.
Yep.
So there's really no way to do that like in the late game like that without being like, okay, so I'm playing Dragon Soul right now. I already have an Asol. I already have the Olaf. I have a brand on board as well. If I hit a mage spat, then now you have 3 mage. I think that's really the only comp that, or like if you're playing a straight Elderwood without mages, like you don't go the third mage for some reason, and then you still have Lulu and Vagar on. Those
Mhm.
are really the only two comps that you slot in mages at all that could have the chance to get you that like 3 mage interaction.
Yeah, I feel like Mage in that way with like AP items the set feels very weird to transition out of or into in the later parts of the game. Like if you have AP items, it's like, all right, I guess like I need to go like Elderwood Asol seems to be the best comp for those and like the other AP like comp I can think of is like Fable Nico, but that one's so like specific that I don't feel good about pivoting into it in the late game if I like have AP items. I feel like that's a really hard pivot.
I I would 100% agree with you. What I've been doing myself is when like if I end up with a lot of AP items, I know I'm either playing Asol, I'm playing a subpar Kale because like pure AP Kale's not that good,
Mhm.
or I'm getting like a 5 cost and I can put them on like Swain. The only other user of them is really the Morgana, which I think people aren't doing enough if you hit a lot of AP items, but it is a good unit to use them. But just to like circle back to the Asol thing, mages I don't feel like is a good late game pivot because all the mages as I was talking about are 1, 2, 3, like a 1, 2, and 3 costs.
Mhm.
The only the only high cost mage is Asol, which means if you don't hit like a chosen mage Asol or something, you're playing either 2 cost and a 3 cost unit just to activate your Asol, which needs to be activated because all of his damage comes from the double cast. It comes from the
Right.
second cast. So from a balance standpoint here, I understand why they did it. They didn't want Asol to be another Ari where it didn't matter what traits you had on board. You threw Ari level 2 on board with some AP. As long as she ulted, stuff would get one shot.
Yep.
They didn't want that again. So like they kind of gated Asol's damage behind the 3 mage, which from a balance standpoint, I do kind of understand. I just think they needed like a 4 cost or even a 5 cost utility mage
Yeah.
to really help because otherwise you're like most mage comps right now I would say probably run brand, like if you're not running just the pure Elderwood, you're probably going to run brand, Lulu, and Asol.
Yep.
So then you have brand Asol, which means you can get 3 Dragon Soul on board pretty easily, and Lulu just because she's a support mage. If she casts,
Mhm.
even if she doesn't have items, she still helps.
Right. There's
And I feel
also
it's just hard to do that.
yeah. There's also like Vagar being the only 3 cost like mage, that like midpoint if you don't stack him, then he like fall or give items, like he falls off really hard. I feel like
It,
him being such a hot or cold unit is so hard for mage comps.
I completely agree with that as well. Unless you go in with like an early game Vagar and you're like, okay, I can play Vagar this game, he's not normally that worth it on board. Now, if
Mhm.
you're playing like you end up playing like a 6 Elderwood mage or even like a 9 Elderwood mage, Vagar is still going to do damage without some items just because of the Elderwood buffing him. But otherwise, he's just going to be another just unit that's just there because you need his trait. Which I understand, again, from a balance standpoint, putting certain things behind traits, but at the same time, Vagar is the only mid cost mage, as you said. He's the only 3-cost mage. He
Mhm.
should be able to go on either an early game or a late game board and feel impactful. Like that's the way I think they tried to balance the 3 costs. Is early game, great. I high rolled this unit. It's good. Late
Mhm.
game, yeah, all right. This unit's not terrible, but it helps my comp. And
Mhm.
Vagar just doesn't like he feels more of that like okay I'm terrible because I'm only there for mage kind of unit.
Yeah, it's like this is just a body just so that I have mage and I'm hitting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I don't know. I'm really liking the set. I'm still absolutely obsessed with TFT. I'm gonna give this chance to you. I think we talked about a lot of good stuff. Go ahead and plug your stream, everything that you're doing lately, and we'll call it a stream.
All right. I just hit Challenger tonight, everybody. RazmaGaming.
Congrats.
Twitch.tv/RazmaGaming. I stream 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to roughly 6 p.m. Um, I try to focus on educational streams, helping people learn. I answer every question, and the stream's been growing a lot recently. So it's getting kind of hard, honestly, to stream like that, but it's nice.
Yeah, you're doing great. I enjoy it. You'll see me there if you come hang out. And yeah, that's what we're all about here at LOLA is educational, helping people out. So yeah, thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate it. And hope everybody has a good night. I'm gonna sign out.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for having me, Worm.
Yep. All right. Still streaming, but stopped the podcast recording. But
All
yeah,
right.
thought that went well.
Nice. I see Ulta and Key popped in stream.
Yeah, Ulta Key. I see Volks in there earlier too. I don't know if he's still here.
Yeah, nah, Volks probably just said that and left. That's what he
Gotcha.
does.
We'll just hang out.
He's one of my real life friends, so
Gotcha. If you just want to hang out a couple more seconds, I gotta pull our recording from here and then make sure it's good, and then you're good to go.
all right.
But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. It was thought we got some good info out there, and look at that, we got to 40 minutes, no problem. It flies by when you start talking about things.
Yeah, it does.
Let's see, copy that.
And Zobear said she's always here. I
Thanks
wouldn't
for
say
that,
always.
Zo.
You do have work.
Do have some other things to do. Let's see, copy that.
Danger Penguin #1.
Danger Penguin. Yeah, he's one of the other podcasters.
Got it.
All right. Yeah, I'm all set here.
All right.
Yeah, I'm glad you could come on and talk about this. Yeah, I've really been enjoying watching your streams, honestly. I think you can notice that I'm there like pretty much all day recently.
Yeah, you are.
I work on schoolwork and just hang out the whole time, so it's a good time.
Nice. Thank
But
you.
yeah, thank you again, and yeah, I'm gonna sign off and end the stream.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out to the stream. Hope you enjoyed.